It is my pleasure to present you my final year thesis project, Informing the Informal. My thesis focuses on looking at the public realm within the dense fabric of informal settlements. The presentation is divided into four parts: synopsis, site study, the design, and ARD. In Mumbai, there exist many clusters of dense informal settlements. Along with the need of better living conditions, there exists the need for various social amenities and spaces for the people for a better standard of living. However, the informal settlements form a compact cluster of various built forms of housing with very few open spaces for social amenities for the welfare of the people. Thus, within this dense fabric, negotiated pockets of public spaces evolve that has a life of its own, forming the public realm of the settlement. These spaces form an important part of the day-to-day life of the people and are seen to have poor quality of infrastructure or are in deteriorated conditions. There is often an overlook in the planning of such spaces in the development projects of the settlement by the state. The neglection of addressing the importance and need of these spaces by the state and by not incorporating them within the development proposals has deteriorated the social structure of the settlement and its relation to the outside. The thesis begins with an investigation of such negotiated public spaces forming the public realm of a settlement and tries to understand its use throughout the year. Due to the complex nature of the informal settlements, these spaces are multifunctional spaces used by the people for celebrating festivals, as market spaces for small-scale industries, for parking vehicles, etc. Thus, the nature of the spaces and the way the spaces operate vary. These spaces form a system of public spaces forming the public realm within the social economic network of the settlement. Ramaba Ambedkar Nagar is one such settlement of interest for the thesis. There exist three scales of relationship with the public through the use of these informal spaces. The first, at the micro level, being the relationship between communities, at the meso level, being the relationship of the public with the city, and at the macro level, being the relationship of the public with nature. Three settlement was selected to study the various types of public spaces and their nature. A settlement of focus was determined, and in-depth study and analysis was done for the same, leading to site intervention and design strategies. Sites of inquiry being the Maharashtra Housing Board colony within Malwani, Malad West, the Salfa settlement located in Andheri East, and the Ramaba Ambedkar Nagar located in Ghatkopar East. MHB colony. The study in MHB colony showed three scales of public interaction, which include the small pockets of public spaces between the 8 to 10 households, increasing the public interaction between communities. The second, at the commercial level, being the interaction of the public with with various small-scale industries of the settlement and forming the identity of of the settlement. The third being the relationship of the public with various open spaces as well as the spaces under ruin and they're used for various day-to-day activities and celebrations. A self-settlement, there exist various pockets of public spaces and various small-scale interactions between communities along the pipeline passing through the settlement. Also, various small-scale industries are formed within the settlement, mainly including that of wood, steel, bamboo, furniture, etc., forming the identity of the settlement and creating a livelihood for the settlement. Ramaba Ambedkar Nagar is selected as area of focus due to its location within the urban fabric of the city and its condition. Four types of informal public spaces are seen in Ramaba Ambedkar Nagar, namely the first being the open space with paved ground and raised off the streets. The second being the public spaces along the street edges with temporary sheds. The third being the public spaces between households with no pavement. And the fourth being the spill out spaces with raised ground and a fixed shed. The commercial spaces and street market along the main street of the Ramaba Ambedkar Nagar consist of various retail shops along the street edges of the settlement with spill out informal markets. Along the creek edge of the settlement the creek edge of the settlement is used for dumping waste as shown in section 22 dash and as shown in section 11 dash a typical section through the park and the neighborhood cluster of housing. The section shows the nature of the space between the park and the neighborhood houses due to the high compound wall. An informal public realm emerges between the street and the compound wall, spilling out into the street, making the street more dense of activities and difficult for mobility through vehicles. Various Various analytical maps were made to study the site in further detail and to find possible sites for intervention. The first map includes the mapping of open spaces within the settlement. The second map includes mapping of various communities in the neighborhoods, enabling the strategic choose of sites for intervention, catering to all the communities at a whole for the settlement. The third analytical map looks at mapping down the various pockets of public spaces within the settlement and its impact. The fourth analytical map consists of mapping the energies within the settlement, that is, the publicness of spaces and streets of the settlement throughout the day. Through various inferences of the analytical maps, a master plan was formulated, locating the three nodes of public intervention buildings and strengthening the key skills of relationship of the public. The first being along the market edge of the settlement, the second in the core of the settlement, being the community center, and the third along the creek edge of the settlement. Various other public follies to the network strategy of the settlement for the public realm, and that the future of development of the settlement can be done along this network. Site selection and analysis. The site one being along the market edge of the settlement. The intent of the project is to build and strengthen the relationship of the people of Baba Ambedkar Nagar with the city by creating a platform which enables the interaction between the outside market of the city and the various household industries practiced within the settlement. A public mode of the commercial and training is imagined with exhibition spaces and informal stalls for the locals as well as outside in an attempt to encourage public interaction. The site is half open and lined, while the other half consists of a built shelter that is not used daily. The site can be accessed from the service road of the expressway and from the primary street of the settlement. It is the government land maintained by the local mandal and consists of a Vyayam Shala. Site 2, the community center. The intent of the project is to activate the relationship between the public of the settlement and the public of the SRA Mara development, which is lost in present scenario. A public node where the locals can come together to play various indoor as well as outdoor games, also increasing the public interaction through festival celebration and feast for the mass. Site 3, along the creek edge of the settlement. The intent of the project is to build a relationship of the public with nature and thus reimagining the use of creek edge practiced by the locals as dumping waste into a floral garden landscape cascading into the creek with various spaces of public leisure, a space where one can visit to find one's own identity by connecting oneself with nature. Site 3 of the Site 3 forms the phase 2 of the project, which is for the future development of the public realm of the settlement, whereas Site 1 and Site 2 is detailed out for the thesis. Starting with the design for the first site, the learning center along the market edge. Various study of Ramabai helped in understanding the nature and scales of public spaces which emerged from the settlement. Thus, the design strategy was to create various scales of interactive public spaces at the market node. The following section shows the possibility of informal market spaces along the ground plane with various studios and workshop spaces for the small scale industries within the site. Also, use of steel portals for large spans and multifunctional uses on the ground plane. The following map shows circulation ideas and in order to choreograph the public movement within the site from the settlement main street towards the highway edge. Using the a 5 meter by 5 meter grid was placed over the site, enabling to carve out pockets of spaces of public interaction, fill out spaces along the plot edges. The strategy was to create multiple access nodes into the site. The design process started by placing a cuboid over the grid with 6 meter offset on all sides of the plot. The second, a central courtyard was created, enabling the build form for proper light and ventilation, and bringing in the public from the highway edge into the building through an access lane with various retail shops along the edges. Third, was to place the service core along the central courtyard for vertical circulation and scooping out spaces of public interaction along the market and settlement edge for more interaction with the context. The fourth opening of the ground plane, enabling the possibility of different scales of public interaction, raising the part of the build overlooking the settlement. The fifth process was of sculpting the tower, forming the landmark of the public node for the settlement, and also scooping double height spaces for exhibition or other events. Step terraces were also provided along the highway edge for various outdoor studios. The sixth was using steel portals and an envelope over the central courtyard, enabling multi events throughout the day. This is the ground floor plan of the learning center along the market edge. As you can see along the service road of the highway edge, a series of rental shops are provided along and continuing within the access road, pouring onto the central courtyard. Keeping in mind the nature of the market edge of that being of rental shops with spill out spaces for informal markets, the facade of the learning center is designed in such a way that the part of the facade is at rental shops. And on the left is the collapsible truss system, which provides various shed spaces for informal markets or food hawkers during the evening time, creating a space for public interaction of 20 to 25 people during the daytime. As you move within the central courtyard, along the corner of the central courtyard, a water drip is provided for people to drink water. As you move towards the top left of the site, Vyayam Shala is located. Along the west of the site, there exists a cluster of housing of the settlement with the existing central courtyard. This courtyard forms an important entry node within the site, and hence the corner of the Vyayam Shala is opened up to this central courtyard, opening to various scales of public interaction within the site. This is the section cut from the exhibition space on the first floor and the central courtyard, showing the steel portal system with the steel truss within the central space. The first floor plan showing the various workshop spaces for bead jewelry, for making of bead jewelry, kurtas or dresses, and also exhibition spaces for the same. On the second floor, there exist various other workshop spaces and also terraces for outdoor studios, as well as it includes the main circulation core for the tower. This is the roof plan of the site. Uh, a section cut from the Vyayamshala entrance node, cutting through the tower of the building. The tower consists of a viewing deck overlooking the city as well as the settlement. A cross section cut from the highway edge to the main market street edge of the settlement through the central courtyard. The elevation of the building with part collapsible truss system as well as the retail shops on the right hand side. An exploded exo to show the publicness of the ground floor as well as the semi-public movement of the people on the various other floors above. The Vyayamshala entrance node and the central opens public space. Architecture representation and detailing. The following sheet shows the detail of the steel portal system with the steel truss system providing various multifunctional uses of the uh, central courtyard. Detail A shows how the steel truss system is connected with the steel portal through the use of tensile cable connectors. Also, the steel truss consists of various gears and screen and projecting systems for multi-purpose uses. The detail B shows how the steel truss is connected to the waffle slab of the build. On the right, an exploded axonometry is shown for the same. This is the view from the central courtyard looking at the steel truss and portal systems. Another view of the central courtyard and the vertical circulation system. This is the wall section to this collapsible scissor truss system providing the informal market space along the front facade of this of the building. The facade is designed in such a way that a proper ventilation is provided within the exhibition space inside, with a ventilator louvers and provided on the top. The detail shows the detail of the steel scissor truss connecting to the column of the facade. The detail B shows the detail of this truss system. This is the service plan of the building, showing the water supply system, the sewage drain of the site, as well as the stormwater drain. Various trenches are used along the open spaces to drain the surface stormwater of the site. The footfall calculation of the site, a rough calculation of number of people using this public node, as well as the water calculation and the rainwater harvesting calculation considered for 3 days during the monsoon seasons. Roof floor service plan showing the stormwater drain of the roof with various downtake pipes. The front view of the building. These are few of the other views looking at the entrance on the top left, looking at the entrance node of the Vyayam Shala. The other views are looking from various parts of the building towards the central courtyard and the steel portal, truss and portal system of the central space. Another view of the building. Design of site to the community center. Initial idea for the design was to create a circulation idea through single mass, where various possibility of community gathering and community interaction spaces were formed. The idea evolved to the idea of opposite masses within forming a central open space. This central open space forms a flexible space where more and more public interaction and multifunction uses of this space could take place. A 5 meter grid was placed within the site to scoop out various forms of interactive public spaces along the plot. The design started by placing two cuboids on opposite edges of the plot. Pulling and pushing of the mass to carve out the central open space was done with various functions on each blocks of the site. Adding external ramp and staircase along the street edge and articulating the central open space through landscaping. Fourth was to open up the ground plane, freeing the public movement at the ground level and encouraging more interaction between the built and the central open space, and pouring out each programs of the built form within the central space as and when required throughout the day. Using steel construction system for community kitchen area to enable the idea of open kitchen and ease in ventilation control. This is the ground floor plan of the library block with the indoor gaming area on the ground floor, spilling out to the central open space with various gaming options of chess, carom, TT, etc., and public interaction between both the SRA, public as well as the settlement and various communities of the site. The ground floor plan of the community kitchen with an eating space of 25 to 50 people as well as storage and cold storage provided for the same. A ramp is poured out to the central open space, creating opportunities of the function pouring out into the central open courtyard. The first floor plan of the library block consists of the library. An external ramp is provided with a green skin, helping to keep the library cool. A part of the library is raised to articulate the central courtyard, forming the second floor of the library. On the right side, you can see the roof plan of the site. This is the section cut through the community kitchen as well as the library block, showcasing how the ground plane morphs within the central open courtyard space where more and more activities could pour out in and more and more public interactions of different skills could take place. A section cut from the library block with the ground floor as the indoor gaming area, and the second floor with library. A section cut through the community kitchen. The elevation of the library block. The elevation of the community kitchen with various activities built out to the central space. And explored axonometry to show the publicness and the public interaction of between different communities of the site, as well as the use of tensile shed covering the central open space as and required. Architecture representation and detailing for Site 2, Community Center. A wall section of the library block. The detail shows how the tensile shed system is connected to the first floor of the library block through use of tensile cable connectors, and also a buffer facade is created for the library for with a pivoted window and a ventilator for proper ventilation of the library, and fins are and concrete fins are provided uh, for the same. This is the detail of the Langar area with the steel truss system. The detail shows the edge detail of the steel truss system along with the gutter. The gutter just be not just being a service and a service requirement, but also being a design entity within this within the steel truss system. On the right, the explained axonometry explains the roofing system of the steel truss with different members and roofing material. On the left, the service plan showing the water supply as well as the sewage and the stormwater drain of the site, with rough calculation of number of people imagined to use the site, and also the water calculation needed for the same. The roof floor plan showing the downtake pipes of the stormwater drain of the roof. The central open space imagined with the tensile shed and various other activities of community gathering taking place within the space. The view of the library block along with the indoor gaming spaces built out to the central open space. Another view of the library block. The entry of the within the indoor gaming space from the main street of the site, looking towards the central courtyard. View of the library on the first floor. Another view of the central space showing how the interaction between public. Thank you.